Hi there. So what's the first thing you notice about your cosmetic, skincare, makeup packaging? Is it the pretty box or the promises, claims that are being made, or do you go straight for the ingredients list? Now, I usually used to just look at beautiful packaging and just look at what the brand or the product is claiming or promising to do for my skin, and I didn't used to pay as much attention to the actual ingredients. For many years, it was basically when I turned over a cosmetics box or a skincare product box and I looked at the list, it kind of all blurred into one for me because it just seemed like very long words. I didn't really make much of an effort to understand or educate myself about what was in it. It wasn't that I wasn't interested, it just didn't seem that important to me. I just wanted the product to do what it said it was gonna do. Now, in the last years, since we've been formulating our own products, and sometime before that, I've become much more of a proper geek about ingredients and ingredient lists, and these days I'm completely obsessed with them. But I also still find some of them a bit tricky sometimes, and just in terms of deciphering them, and I've turned into a bit of an ingredient detective, shall I say. So I really love researching individual ingredients. Now, this is what I want to talk to you about. My name is Ané, founder and creator of Ané Skincare and Beauty, and today's video is just about 5 things for you to be aware of, take notice of, and look out for when you shop for your products if you want to know more about how to decipher your ingredient lists. So, number one, the first thing that we need to know and that we look for is that your ingredient list is called an INCI or an INCI list. So we'll use that interchangeably. So, but basically when you look at the list of ingredients, and I don't know if you can see very clearly, I will try and make that a bit more clear as an example for you. But on your product packaging, the brand must absolutely list the full ingredient list of what is in that particular product. So what you're looking at here in terms of this ingredient list is called an INCI, and an INCI stands for the International Nomenclature of Cosmetic Ingredients, and I will put a link to that for you below. And basically what an INCI does is it just lists what is in your product, so the active ingredients, the plant-based ingredients, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in just a second. Now, like I said, it is required to list every ingredient that is in your product, but sometimes when we come to something like perfume or fragrance, then we know that those the smell profile of a fragrance can contain many compounds, so it's not actually required to list those individual compounds of, for example, fragrance. So sometimes that's where it can be a little bit of a grey area. Now, what the INCI does is that it's an international standard, international framework for the industry and for consumers to understand what is in their product. And one of the requirements for that is that all ingredients are listed. When it comes to active ingredients, for example, that it's listed by their scientific name, so that, for example, if you have vitamin C in your product, so that it doesn't say vitamin C in one country and maybe another name for vitamin C in a different country. Also when it comes to different derivatives, for example, of ingredients. So in our Radiance serum, for example, the vitamin C that we use is sodium ascorbyl phosphate, and that's a derivative of vitamin C. Now, sodium ascorbyl phosphate looks like a long name on the INCI list, but because that's the scientific name for that particular derivative of vitamin C, you know what you get whether you buy a product with that ingredient in America, in the EU, in Australia, wherever you may be. So for ingredients to have to be listed, sorry, by their scientific names, and then when it comes to plant ingredients, that they are listed by their Latin names. So again, Latin names, when you have a whole list of them, like in our glow in a bottle face oil, we've got 11 face oils. Now if I just listed a long list of 11 Latin names, to be honest with you, I sometimes can't remember exactly every single Latin name of all the plant ingredients that we use across our different products. So to make that easier, we can list Latin names for plant-based ingredients, and then what we do on Glow in a Bottle, for example, is we put the more well-known name of that particular plant oil in brackets afterwards. So for example, you would find here that with the wheat germ, for example, it's Triticum vulgare, which is basically just wheat germ oil. So to make it easier for customers to understand what's in a product, when it comes to plant oil, for example, is that we list the Latin names, but then in brackets we say the more, common general name that us as consumers can easily understand to see what's in our product. So the INCI, this international framework, just gives us a structure, both as an industry and also for consumers to understand what's in a product, and there are specific rules around how products should be listed in that framework and what according to what name they should be listed in terms of scientific name or their Latin name if it's a plant product. So it just gives us a common framework and a common understanding between the industry and consumers, and so that if you want to go and research an ingredient, that you can focus on one word or one title or one name for an ingredient, and you will know that whatever results you get, everything that you see is to do with that particular ingredient, because everybody uses the same name. So that's the first thing to be aware of, is that's your ingredient list, that's your INCI. All these very long names just means that we are required to use the scientific names or the Latin names when it comes to plant ingredients. Point number 2 on your INCI is that the order in which your ingredients appear on the ingredient list is important, and the INCI requires that ingredients how shall I say this, not necessarily in their highest concentration, and I'll explain about that just now, but the ingredient present in the largest quantity within that formula should be listed first, and then in descending order from there. Now, just a quick thing, 2 points about that, is that just because an ingredient isn't listed, say for example an active ingredient, way in the beginning, like in the first 1, 2, 3 ingredients of a product, doesn't mean that it's necessarily much less potent or that it's not having an effect in the formula. Active ingredients all have different levels of efficacy, safety in terms of their dosage, and they will be included in the formula based on the decision by the brand, formulator, the product development chemists, and so on. So just something to be aware of, that an active ingredient specifically, depending on where it is in the formula, there are more factors involved in where it appears than just the amount of that ingredient in the formula. So just something to keep in mind, and also to say that for ingredients that are present in less than 1% in a formula, those ingredients can be listed in any order on the ingredients list. So something else to be aware of. And then the third thing to be aware of on your INCI list is that with some ingredients, especially specifically referring to essential oils, and this is the third point I want to make, is when we come to allergens within our ingredients, is that essential oils contain natural allergens. It's part of their makeup. Now, for people who have sensitive skin or have known allergies, that is something to look out for, because at the very end of the ingredient list, sometimes indicated by an asterisk, not always, sometimes indicated in italics, not always, but at the end of your ingredient list you will notice and see where naturally occurring allergens are listed within that ingredients list. So for example, we do have a few essential oils in our glow in a bottle face oil, and therefore we list at the end of the ingredient list things like limonene, linalool, and those are naturally occurring allergens in essential oils. Now, allergens aren't necessarily always a bad thing. Many people tolerate them really well. It's not an issue at all. But if you have known allergies or very sensitive skin, then your skin may be sensitized to an essential oil, for example. So that's just something to look out for on that ingredient list. Right, so the next thing to be aware of is that complex sounding ingredients, I want to say, that's the fourth point, and I think I've basically alluded to that in the beginning, is that because of scientific names and Latin names, ingredient lists can sometimes look and sound just a bit undecipherable. So I think this is where we can use the opportunity to investigate a little bit more when we want to know what something means, right? I've heard some people say that if you can't pronounce a certain word, then you shouldn't put that on your face. I completely disagree with that. There are incredible, very safe, clinically proven, scientifically developed ingredients that we use in skincare. For example, peptides, that's got all very interesting sounding names, for example, but I feel that they are completely safe to use. They are included in the products that we are developing. So I certainly I don't agree with that. But what I do think is that if you have any questions about an ingredient or any concerns, is for you to research that for yourself, to find out more about it, research it, reach out to the brand, ask them about it, so that you as a customer can reassure yourself that you are happy with what is in your product and what you see on your list. So that brings me to the last point, and that really is about educating ourselves in terms of ingredients. And these days there are so many bloggers and experts and dermatologists and cosmetic scientists and people that are coming online, obviously brands as well, that share more information about their ingredients, their formulations, why they formulate the way that they do, why they choose certain ingredients. So there's a ton of information available that it just wasn't there really to the extent it is now 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I feel that over the last 3, 4, 5 years, things have really exploded in terms of information, specific ingredient information that's available in a much more digestible format, that's not just kind of in clinical papers that are quite complicated to read and make sense of. So, for example, I feel that we should all have vitamin C and vitamin A in our skin routine, right? In terms of antioxidants, to have that all-round antioxidant protection in our skincare routine. So I like to use vitamin C in the morning and vitamin A, retinol, at night. Now, this is just one example of ingredients that we can look into. Both vitamin C and vitamin A have got multiple derivatives of that particular ingredient. So vitamin C has multiple derivatives of vitamin C, and brands make their own choices about which version of vitamin C they want to use in their particular product, and according to their particular claims and criteria, whatever the case may be. The same with vitamin A. A brand makes a decision about whether they want to use retinol or they want to use another derivative of vitamin A, depending on what they want their product to say and their particular criteria. So when we buy a vitamin C or a vitamin A product, we don't just buy a vitamin C or vitamin A product, because we need to also educate ourselves in terms of what our skin needs and how our skin is going to respond. Now, just one small example of this is that with vitamin C, there are several derivatives. I have tried all of them basically in different products to find the one that would work for me, because I was reacting to vitamin C in terms of ascorbic acid. So the only one that I could find was sodium ascorbyl phosphate, SAP. That's the vitamin C that we use in our Radiance serum, and that was the only one that I felt was gentle enough and stable enough for me to use in our Radiance serum. I've tried a few other products, not a few, I tried quite a few other products, and with one of them my skin reacted so badly I actually had to take steroids to get the to get it back down to normal. It was that bad. Now, so all I'm trying to illustrate is that even with just using a vitamin C or just a vitamin A product, within that there will also be variation, and unfortunately sometimes we will only figure that out through trial and error. I mean, I could have tried that specific product that I reacted to so badly. Everything could have been perfectly fine, and of course loads of people use that product. It's a very popular product and many people are absolutely fine. So it just didn't work for me. Now, that is often the case, is that one product will work amazing for the majority of people, and then there will be a small minority of people that it just doesn't work for. Skin reacts. We are all so different. So I guess what I'm trying to say is just research as much as you can, find out as much as you can, but in the end sometimes you will only really know through trial and error and actually something that you put on your face and then skin reacts or not, or it works wonderfully well and you have an amazing outcome. So those were the 5 key points that I just wanted to make about ingredients lists, and I hope that you found it useful. If you did, then please give me a little thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do click the little bell so you know when a new video is published. And if you have any questions for me, any comments, then please do let me know. I always love hearing from you. Thank you for watching, thank you for being here, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye for now.